It's a big week. It's a big week for the global markets, big week for the local markets as well. Welcome to the trade setup. Let me quickly get underway because it's a long one. First, why is it that I'm saying it's a big week for the world markets? And then I'll get to what the world markets are doing. For the US markets in particular, big tech comes out with numbers. Apple and Amazon, amongst others, declare numbers this week, and it's a big test, litmus test for the Nasdaq, which has done so well, right? Senate Republicans will unveil their stimulus proposals, which will happen in the early part of the week, which is also very very important from a U.S. markets perspective. We'll have the U.S. Fed meet decision wrapping up on Wednesday evening India time, and therefore that is another big one. Maybe no big decisions, but the commentary thereof would be very very important too, and the first reading of the Q2 GDP numbers of the US on Thursday. So it's a big one for the US market. It's the biggest thus far in the current season. And what happens in the mother market gets reflected in the other markets too, and which is why it becomes so important for the world markets. Well, world markets, speaking of world markets, Asia is a bit mixed today, this morning in trade. US markets, Asia, all of those. I mean, let's just quickly see what the US markets did or what Asia did, irrespective, frankly, and then we'll move on to the SGX Nifty. So the US markets on Friday, ho hum, really, if you will. And Asia has a mixed bag today with the SGX Nifty indicating a start, which was at least the last time that I saw marginally in the green. The question is, can that green sustain during the course of the day, or will we see some red because the rest of the Asian pack is a bit mixed? But a quarter of a percent thus far, so not bad at all. Remember, the Nifty has reliance on its side. The trade setup for the day, it's a big earnings week, as I said, for India too. It's a big earnings week. More than 560 companies declaring numbers, their earnings scorecard this week. I mean, that tells you the magnitude of the earnings deluge, earnings reportage deluge that we'll have this week in terms of that. That forms the biggest part of the trade setup for me, frankly. Reliance Industries, SBI, Bharti Airtel, Kotak Bank, all of these come out with numbers. There is also Maruti Suzuki, which comes out with numbers. So it's a really, really important week in terms of earnings. And I think global cues and sentiment will dominate the Indian trade. So therefore, we'll start off okay. Let's see what happens during the course of the week. But a bunch of numbers that will react numbers. And you will wonder why I've gotten so early to numbers today. It's just because the weekend was dominated with earnings flows and a lot of stocks that will react. So I thought it's best to tell you about some of these because they also have a bearing on what the index does, right? So to my mind, the stock of the day has to be Coromandel International. It came out with numbers which were really impressive. Yes, the agrarian plays have done well, but this one was special, really. Sales up 51%, EBITDA up 111%, profit up 301%. And mind you, this is, yes, in line with earnings estimates, but the earnings growth was led higher by a number of factors which look probably sustainable to some extent, right? So uh, the higher fertilizer sales manufactured the margins for Coromandel International, and that's why the EBITDA was up about 111%, and the PAT was up 301%. So that was extremely strong. There was a sharp rise, exceptional fertilizer volume growth. Really, it was partly led by favorable base also and some pre-buying as well. But still, it was a good performance. And what the management says in the con call today probably give an indication of what would happen in the quarter ahead. And there was a reversal in the crop protection earnings as well. Remember, that business was a washout for Coromandel whole of the last 12 months. It's now come back because there's a demand for it. And as a result of which, it might be sustainable on a low base. So therefore, this is that one stock that I would watch out for. It's trading at about 20, 22 times the last 12 months earnings. Watch out for Coromandel. Watch out for EID Parry too, by the way. Both of them could react together today. I would watch out for Z Entertainment. I think there are concerns galore for Z Entertainment. So, firstly, the numbers, the revenues were better than estimates. So, that is actually a good thing. But there was a net loss versus a profit estimate. There was an EBITDA loss versus an EBITDA gain. Remember, this is Q4, by the way, for Z Entertainment. And there was an EBITDA loss versus an EBITDA gain. And if you just look at all the things that impacted the quarter of the commentary, it doesn't look all that great, really. There was a high content cost and commentary on FY21 ad revenue, which didn't seem all that great. The auditor qualifications and write-offs will impact sentiment today. I mean, it may. Let me qualify myself. It may. Who knows? The stock may actually do well because if you just look at what IDFC Securities is saying, they're saying that the valuations remain undemanding, and as a result, they are maintaining their outperform rating as well. So maybe people might believe that the valuations are undemanding and they might go out and buy. I would reckon that there could be some bit of an impact on the auditor qualifications as well. So do watch out for Z Entertainment too in the session today. ITC, I thought was interesting. It was better than the lower expectations that were set for ITC. So yes, I mean the food and hygiene portfolio did well, so that grew about 34%. The cigarette volumes though were down about 35 to 40%, and that's a huge cut. But the expectations were about 40 to 45%. So it's actually come in lower than what the estimates were, and that is actually a good thing for ITC. So I would watch out for this one. I think brokerages have maintained a neutral rating, but maybe there could be a small uptick here today. What was a good show was RT Drugs. And the reason I bring this up is again to prove that point that good companies which are delivering numbers may actually continue doing well. So look at this performance: 34% sales growth, EBITDA 145, PAT 280%. Uh, the key is, I mean, if you look at the stock, it's moved from a 52-week low of 420, nearly 1600 rupees, right? I mean, just look at that stock price performance. And therefore, you have to keep this in mind if you're trading a stock like RT Drugs. It's gone up 4x already. So it has a really good show. The stock may still react, but be mindful of these valuations and the run up that it has seen ahead of the numbers in the last 12 months as well, or the last 6 months as well. So you have to bear that in mind before you kind of take a big trade on this one. Ambuja, to my mind, will have a big reaction on open the way ACC did as well. I thought the numbers, I mean, there's no point about what me thinking alone, but compared to the Bloomberg estimates, the numbers are better than estimates as well. 2,176 crores, so marginally higher revenue, but the profit number much higher than estimates, 453 versus 312. Margins was 27% versus estimates of 20%. So, I mean, lower power, fuel, freight costs, all of that aided margins. And these times when you know that the top line growth are not great, if companies are able to maintain margins, that's rewarded, right? I would reckon that Ambuja would actually have a good day. Remember, it was in the red and it crept up into the green in Friday's session. Maybe there could be more. A couple of brokerage notes that I thought were interesting. So Jefferies came out with a note on Supreme Industries after their results. And Jefferies is saying that Q1 FY21 is a strong beat according to them. The reported PAT as per Supreme Industries was double the expectations that Jefferies had. So this is Jefferies' note, remember. This is not what BloombergQuint is saying. But Jefferies said that the reported PAT is double their expectations. The operating margins at 11.1% was a robust beat despite the volatility in PVC prices. And margins, rather, excuse me, yeah. And they are rating the stock as buy with a price target of 1410. It remains their top pick. So do watch out for Supreme Industries if it does well, despite reported numbers being lower than the previous quarter. You would know why it has done that, because it's beaten most estimates handsomely. Now, Asian Paints, the numbers came out in the dying hours of Friday's trade, post 3 o'clock on Friday. But the con call happened post that, and post that, brokerages is called with their opinion. The one from JP Morgan I thought was the most interesting one. They are maintaining their overweight with the target price of 1900. They believe that the execution excellence come to the fore with the Q1 beat. The positive surprise on top line and sustenance of momentum are the key. And they're upgrading the FY21 EPS by 5% on better than expected demand momentum. So JP Morgan is believing in the Asian Paint story. They believe that they're expanding their revenue base and moderating capex, which will drive the improvement in free cash flow and return ratios. So they are positive. Some other brokerages have been mixed on Asian, so remains to be seen. And watch out for aviation stocks as well. Government has extended the domestic flight restrictions until November 24th. So we'll watch out for SpiceJet and Interglobe Aviation as well. Lastly, just very quickly, a couple of things you got to watch out for as well. The 15,000 crore Yes Bank FPO will list today. Mindspace REIT IPO opens today. And watch out for Persistent Systems. So the numbers were a strong beat, so that one could do well too. So watch out for these three names. Lastly, what stood out for me, and on the flip side, watch out for the pharma stocks, because I think Donald Trump on Friday signed 4 executive orders aimed at lowering the high cost of prescription drugs in the United States. Now, that would make sweeping changes to the prescription drug market in the US if these are finalized, and would have a negative impact on a lot of pharma names that want to make it big in the US. So therefore, watch out for the pharma index and watch out for a bunch of pharma names. I don't want to spell out individual names because a lot of these will get impacted. So if they do, and if the pharma index starts lower, you know why. The fear factor is this. And if this gets signed, then it could actually add to further fuel to fires. Therefore, do watch out for these. Thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup today.